Buckle up for the new episode of APRO Podcast, our first in-house podcast series dedicated to the student and motivate healthcare students through inspirational story of people who have been living with a specific disease. So for this APRO podcast, we dive into the life of people who have diabetes, and here is the episode 2. So I am Jyotsna Pokhrel, your RMPO and the MC for this episode with my partner.
Hi, my name is Kishan. I'm the Secretary of IPSF APRO here as the moderator for today. And thank you, Joseph, for that introduction. So we have a special guest today, our speaker, Miss Elaine. So Elaine, why don't you give a little introduction about yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Elaine. I'm from Taiwan, and I moved to the US for college in 2012. And then I lived in California, Washington, and New York since then. I'm currently a software engineer at Facebook New York. I enjoy playing piano, sketching, and then sleeping in my free time. I've had type 1 diabetes for about 3 years, and I'm currently working on hosting public events in Taiwan to raise awareness for diabetes and educate people around us to provide support when needed.
Okay, that's very interesting. So it's been 3 years since you have been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. Do you remember any details about the time when you were diagnosed? Like, was it difficult for you to adjust to that new diagnosis?
Yeah, it was actually very shocking when it first happened because I basically passed out at home when that happened. So I went skiing one day, and then afterwards I was very uncomfortable and I started throwing up. I thought I was sick. And then after continuously throwing up for a day and a half, I basically passed out at home. And then my roommate found out about me passing out after her work. So then I got sent to the hospital and I stayed in the ICU for a week. Well, not a week, but 3 days. And then I was in the hospital for a week. And then that's when I got diagnosed. I didn't have any family history, so it was kind of surprising for me and my family. But yeah, and then the doctors kind of educated me on how I should handle it, but it was definitely difficult at first. I really don't have much knowledge of this condition until I got diagnosed, and then I had to manage my diet afterwards.
So you mentioned that you passed out. So before you passed out, or before there was the obvious sign that you had some there are some signs symptoms. Were there significant symptoms that you noticed before the incident?
You mean before I started feeling uncomfortable?
Yeah.
So there weren't, and I was basically very normal. Before I went skiing, so on the day that I started feeling uncomfortable, I was skiing the whole day. But then before that, I didn't feel anything weird. I think on the day off skiing, I when we went to dinner, I had some, I was really hungry, and then I had a lot of sugary milk tea. But then it shouldn't really fill you up, but then after I had those, I felt really full. I couldn't eat any of my food, and I ended up giving it all to my friends. And it was kind of weird. I felt it was weird, but then I feel it was because my sugar probably went up crazy during that time, and that probably caused me not wanting to eat during that time. So I feel it probably has happened on that day. And then obviously I started feeling very uncomfortable that night. But then there wasn't really any signs before that, or not that I could think of.
So basically it just came out of the blue for you.
Yeah. It's just kind of random. And the doctor also said they don't really know what caused it. They said it could be like a virus infection, but then they don't know what virus or like how I caught it, or like they don't really know why basically. But then I guess like based on my symptoms, like they think it's type 1 diabetes.
Okay, so it's been 3 years now. How much has your life has changed ever since you've been diagnosed? Like, how is it going on right now?
Yeah, I think the most like how I manage it is by injections, right? Because like type 1 diabetes people can't really take pills, and like we just have no insulin in our body, so we have to take insulin. And so I think like I've been trying to like not eat as much like sugary stuff so that my blood sugar doesn't like surge too much. But then it kind of, I still eat, like I still drink like milk tea sometimes. I still eat like cookies and cake sometimes, but it is, you do have to like watch out what you eat and like when you eat it more. And I think at least recently I've been wearing like sensors so that I know like how my blood sugar is like fluctuating every day. And I think it helps a lot, and it like makes me understand like how diet affects my body and like how different types of insulin, because I take like long acting insulin as well as short acting insulin, and like they affect my body like very differently. And I think even if you, I guess, like read about information online about these conditions, like your body like reacts to things like differently from how other people do it. So then I'm kind of like trying to figure out like the best way to, I guess, keep my sugar down, but also like not too low, because if it's too low, then it is very dangerous and I could faint.
Right, right. That's very true.
Yeah. So I think it's like trying to like find a balance, like trying to like manage my sugar so that it's like in the average normal range, but not like too high or too low, which is still hard sometimes. Like I think even after 3 years, because I would say like the first 2 years, like I didn't wear sensors, and like a lot of times I just kind of like, I just kind of thought I knew what my sugar is, but then I feel like only after I wore the sensors, like I really know how it's changing. And yeah, and like I used to have like a lot of nighttime lows. So like my sugar would go down to like pretty low, like maybe 40, 50, which is like really not good at night. And then I I wouldn't know why that was, but then I think like after wearing sensors, like I feel like it is because of like sometimes like during the day I like take a little too much, and then like I don't notice it, but then it only like takes effect like until afterwards. So yeah, I think there are like a lot of like small things that you just need to be aware of. And when like a lot of times like when you feel uncomfortable, you have to think about like, could it be like my blood sugar? Like maybe I'm just not just like, I'm not just like having a cold, like maybe my blood sugar is like weird or something. Yeah. And it has definitely like happened multiple times. Like whenever I have jet lag, it like affects me a lot. Like I've had like very high blood sugar and very low blood sugar like when I have jet lag, and I just notice it's like something that happens to my body. Like I didn't know that's like a thing. I don't think people think it's a thing, but it definitely like has a very significant effect on my body.
That's interesting. I've never, I mean, as a pharmacy student, I mean, I'm a pharmacist now. I have never encountered situations like this where a lot of external situations can actually affect a person's blood sugar. In your case, like jet lag, and also what you mentioned about trying to differentiate whether you're actually having a cold or you're actually having problems with your sugar level. That's quite a challenge for you to handle. But and you also mentioned that currently you're controlling your sugar level with your insulin as well as your diet. Is there like anything else that you do to make sure that you have like a healthy life and also a healthy sugar level in your body?
Um, I do try to exercise, but then I don't do it that much because I'm not like a super sporty person. But
Right.
also like exercise does affect my sugar a lot, so I usually have to be very careful when I exercise because um I didn't know that before, but then I started when like we were like quarantining, like we have to like stay home all the time. I like started doing some exercise following like YouTube videos. And then I noticed like if I exercise mostly like for more than 30 minutes, like my sugar will definitely go down. So then like I have to make sure that my sugar level is at least like higher than average before I start exercising, because otherwise my sugar might go like lower than average. So then that's not good. And like I've definitely had like instances when like that happened and then I felt like very like shivering and like cold and stuff. So other than that, I feel like not much. I think I just have to be like I always have to like inform people that I live with so that they know about my condition and like they know like if I like one day if I like sleep and I can't wake up, it could be that my sugar is too low and like they're like they might have to give me like emergency injection of like sugar if that happens. Um yeah, like, and I think since I got diagnosed, like I don't live alone. Like I always live with like a roommate or like family so that like just in case of like something that happens, right? Because I think it is like a condition, and sometimes like when I'm low or when I'm high, I can't really make judgments like very clearly. So like sometimes when I'm too low or when I'm too high, I won't think it's like my blood sugar. Like I might think like, oh, I'm just like really hungry or I'm just like not eating enough. Like there are like many things that I could think of that like is not my condition that like could cause this. And a lot of times like even when my mom tells me like you should check your blood sugar, you're like acting really weird, like I might say like, oh, but I'm normal, my sugar is fine, I don't need to check, like I'm fine. But then like only when they like force me to do it, then I like realize like I am like not normal because of like my blood sugar level. So I think it is like you do need people to like be around you to like remind you of like situations and like how you're acting. Like from what I hear, that I do act differently when like my sugar is too low or when my sugar is too high. And then like people who know me can usually tell that I am acting abnormal. So yeah, so I think like having people around you like really helps with like keeping you healthy and safe.
Yeah,
Extremely
I
important.
totally agree. Yeah, that's quite interesting. So, like, you mentioned about the exercise. So, like, what kind? I have like two follow-up questions. What kind of exercise do you do? Because I have also read somewhere that the high intensity workout and like there are different kind of exercise that should not be done, and like the diabetic person should also consult with the doctor to follow like certain kind of
Mm.
exercise, right? So like have you like researched about it, or like yeah, about the surge in blood sugar level
Yeah,
due to
so I
exercise?
haven't
And the next,
really go ahead.
yeah, okay. I'll also ask about the follow-up question. So like you mentioned that your friends and your family knows and like they provide you companionship. So like are you never alone, or like yeah, yeah, like are you never like alone?
Yeah, so for the first question, I have not researched like what exercise is like most suitable, I think. But
Mm.
so the exercises that I have done like more frequently is like kind of like a core exercise. So like when you're kind of just doing like jumps at home, or if when you're doing like, I don't know what those are called, but then I think they're like core strengthening exercise kind of.
Right.
So that it like trains your muscles and like
Yeah.
things like that. So I've done that, and I've done I used to play this like fitness ring thing. So it's like a video game, but then you like kind of like train your muscles with it. I think it's like a
Oh, the one
similar
on the
kind.
Switch,
Yeah, the one
right?
that's like,
Oh,
yeah, that's like a
that's one.
round thing.
Right.
Yeah. So I like to play that because I think it's fun, and it has like little like games that you can play with it. So I've done both of them. I think I definitely feel like the core like strengthening exercise like affects me more. Like it like lowers my sugar more, probably because it's like a little more intense, and like sometimes I do it for longer, like an hour or more. Um, I think like I just I I talked to someone who like used to bike like competitively, and he has diabetes, and then he told me that whenever he bikes, he just like eats like snacks like every, I think, a period of time. So then like maybe every hour he eats something. He doesn't really like check his blood sugar or anything. He just knows like his body is gonna like use this much like sugar like in an hour. So that he just like adds more like whenever that happens. So then like that's kind of like how I do it. I just like I try to eat something before I exercise, and then right like if it's like really long, like sometimes in the middle I check my blood sugar, or like afterwards I definitely check my blood sugar, so to make sure that I'm not too low, or like it doesn't look like I'm going to be too low. But I definitely have to like track my blood sugar like during or like soon after, or like maybe like an hour after I exercise, to make sure that like nothing is wrong. So that's kind of how I like manage it. And your second question is, am I ever alone? Obviously, I'm still alone sometimes. And there were once when I like had to go on like a business trip, and then I was like I flew from like Asia to the US like for the business trip, and then during that time I was obviously jet lagged, and then I slept for like I was like really tired, and I slept for like a day or more, like maybe a day and a half, and I like didn't take any insulin during that time. I didn't eat anything during that time, and then I ended up with like really high blood sugar, and like it wasn't just like high, I was definitely like not in my right minds. Like I was like, I just want to lie down. I didn't want to do anything. And then like I was alone, and then I like video called my mom, and then she said like I'm not normal, and she like forced me to test my blood sugar, and that's when I found out that like my sugar is like way too high. And then I took insulin right after, but then like it wouldn't go down. I think because it was high for so long, it like makes it harder to like decrease like my sugar level. So then it was like it took me like I think a whole day for my sugar to like go back to normal. And then also because like I was like really annoyed that it wouldn't go down, I like took way too much, and then like my sugar went like way too low, and then like I couldn't at one point I like could not like focus on what I'm seeing. So like my vision's like blurry. Like I couldn't like see stuff. It's not I can see stuff, but then I couldn't like focus on things. Like everything is like spinning, and I couldn't like focus on something and like understand like what I'm seeing. So then that's like when I'm too low. And so I mean eventually I like recovered, but it was definitely like kind of scary. And then I was alone at that time, but I guess fortunately I still like could video call like my family, so that like they could know what's happening, like, and could remind me what what I could do to like make the condition better. But yeah, I mean, I think there are definitely still times that I am alone, and like I do still think it is dangerous, like to an extent, probably also because like I'm not great at managing it. But then I think like there's definitely people who are a lot better. Like I know one of my like childhood friends, she also has type 1 diabetes, and she eats like she like cooks herself. She eats like super healthy like food. And I think I don't know how much she exercises, but then I think like she really watches her diet. So then like it's rare that she goes like too high or too low. Um, but I think it really depends on your like lifestyle. Like I don't cook that much. So and I don't always eat like the same things. I don't like to
Right.
eat the same things. So then in a way like sometimes like there could be incidents when like things are a little unsafe. So then like I have to watch out more when that happens.
So it's been like a period of trials and errors for you, I would say. Like you will need
Yeah.
to like test things out in order to know what actually works for you and everything. And sounds quite
Yeah.
I would say a struggle for you and for the people around you, and especially on the cooking part. I think it's easier if you're staying with people. You don't really have to cook for yourself. Someone's always there to cook for you, right?
That's definitely true.
Yeah.
But I think it's not just cooking. Like you also have to just like it's easier if you eat like more consistent food. Like if
Right.
you eat like if I eat like rice and like this amount of vegetables and this amount of meat like every meal, like you just know how much sugar that is, right? Because like you're eating the same thing all the time. But then like I think it's a lot more challenging when you eat like very different stuff all the time, which I think I do.
Speaking of
Yeah,
the
it's good.
yeah yeah it's definitely
It's
definitely a challenge, especially when we live in a like in our region where we don't actually have that one particular type of food that we eat every day. We always need to have something different on our plate,
Yeah.
and like yeah, and it's an Asian thing. And speaking of your friends and your family, how has this affected their routine or their lives? Or what was their reaction to all of this when it happened so far?
Yeah, I think my my mom like flew to because I got diagnosed in Seattle,
Oh,
and my mom flew there like obviously when I was in the hospital and like didn't have consciousness. Um, I think she was definitely like really shocked, but then I think she tried her best to like help me manage this. And like when I first got out of the hospital, she like tried to cook like stuff that doesn't have a lot of carbs so that I don't like my blood sugar doesn't fluctuate that much during that time. I think my other families, like my grandmother is like super worried and she keeps saying that like you should come back to Taiwan and like not stay in the US because obviously I work in the US and like I live in the US. But then my grandmother is like, yeah, you like have this condition, like we can take care of you. You should come back. But then well, I'm still like not back, but then I'm here now for now. Um, but yeah, like some of my family like is worried about like my situation. I think most of my friends are pretty much fine. I think some of my friends are like really afraid of needles, and then like every time I take injections, like they have to like look away and like can't like look at me when I'm like taking my injections. But then I think most of them like are pretty like fine with like my condition, and they just know that like I need to like take my injections at a certain time. I definitely do feel like people do have different reactions or like I guess kind of like suggestions to me sometimes like when I'm like eating stuff. Like some of my friends would say like, oh, maybe you shouldn't eat this because this is like too sugary. Like definitely like a lot of my friends are like that. Like they would say like, oh, like but maybe you like can't eat like dessert because this will like affect your blood sugar. Well, though a lot of times I'm just gonna say like I'm fine. But like there are also some of my friends would say I would say like, oh, I shouldn't eat that because I think it's gonna like make my blood sugar like spike. And then she would just say like, oh, but then you can just like take more, right? But I think like people just don't know how like it works exactly. So then like they I think like most of them like say these things like out of like good intentions.
Concern. Yeah.
Yeah. But they
Yeah.
but I think like they just most of them like don't really know exactly how it works. So then um yeah, I mean I take their advice sometimes, but but other times I just do it my way.
I think it's hard for people who have not experienced it themselves, to give the self
Yeah.
advice. I think most of the time it's because they want to do it out of their own concern. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless like
So
you yourself have the condition or like someone close to you, like people really are not well aware about the stuff. So like, have you ever experienced like such public stigma related to the diabetes, like that needs to be changed, like that really annoys you? For example, people might say that, oh, you consume sugar, so you have high blood pressure,
I
or
don't
like
think there mhm.
yeah.
I don't think there are like very obvious public stigma that I've experienced. I think like a lot of times it is a little awkward when I first meet someone and I had to take insulin like in front of them before I eat. And then people have very different reactions, but then like some people would like pretend they didn't see you and then but then like still like look at you secretly and then like they wouldn't ask. And then some people would just like ask what that is. Some people would know it's for diabetes, but and then like we would talk about it. And like I think people just have like very different ways of like reacting to it. And like a lot of people might think like, oh, it might offend you, so I'm not gonna ask about it. I obviously like don't really care. I think if they ask, that's fine. If they don't ask, that's also fine. Um, I don't think there I don't think I've had any like public stigma from like people that I don't know, which like really annoyed me. Um, I think there are definitely some times when I'm like at a more high-end restaurant, like sometimes I like go to the bathroom to like do it because it's like I didn't want to like show my skin in front of like too many people or like in like a nice setting. Um, but I don't think there were any instances when I was like, I feel like I was like discriminated because of it. I think most of the time it's just when people don't really understand like what you're doing and then they would, I guess like sometimes like have some ignorance in like how you handle things, but then they like I think they try. Like I think most people try to understand, they just don't really know. And like some people would think like, oh, you have diabetes, then you just uh but then they would say like, oh, but you're not fat. Like why do you have diabetes? And then I would have to like explain that I guess like not all diabetics are fat or like it doesn't necessarily have a correlation and there are different types of diabetes and like people
Yeah.
it's just like it like
yeah.
differs like between people.
It's
um yeah.
it's a learning process for some people. I think because um, the prevalence of type 2 diabetes, which is most commonly associated with people who are obese and
Mhm.
unhealthy. Yeah, that
Yeah.
Yeah.
mostly comes to people's mind whenever you mention the word diabetes. So I think it's a
Mhm.
good thing that I mean, of course, it can be an uncomfortable situation for you, but I think it's a good thing that sometimes people ask so that they can be educated about it. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's maybe people need to be to they need to learn more about what actually diabetes is and what are the different types of things. But it's a good thing that you didn't face any particular stigma in your throughout your life for
Mhm.
ever since you've been diagnosed and all that. Yeah.
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 So what do you think people should do, for those who are not so sure, or people who have no idea at all about what type 1 diabetes, what do you think they can do to like improve their knowledge of type 1 diabetes or diabetes as a whole?
Um, I don't I don't know what they should do. There are I think there are education like sessions like from hospital or sometimes like from like medical like practitioners that like provide information on like these kind of things. And like I honestly like they really don't need to know that much in general, but then like I would say if I have like too low of a blood sugar and like I faint on the street, I hope someone would know that I need something to eat or like something to drink, like buy me a juice or something. So like I wear
That's
like
important.
Yeah.
yeah, so I wear this like bracelet that says like type 1 diabetes like on me.
Oh,
I honestly don't think anyone's gonna see it, but then I still wear it because it's like a thing that my doctor told me to wear. And then so it's like I think having like awareness that like when someone like if you know someone has this condition, like maybe how you could support them and like what kind of condition like they might like what kind of solutions that they might be seeking, like I think would be helpful because it does happen like on the street sometimes. Like my friend has like fainted on the subway and then like a stranger had to like go buy her a juice and then she like recovered. So it I think these kind of knowledge is important. And obviously I think there are many different events the the organization that I'm working with in Taiwan, like we also host like different events for education purposes and for like diabetes people to like connect. So if you like go to those, like you also get educated. So I think there are many ways, but then I wouldn't think like an average normal person would like go to those all the time. But I think if you are into supporting like people like us and you like want to educate yourself, like you could definitely look out for those kind of events.
I think that's a good thing. I mean, say for example, if you were to have like a low or high episode in the street somewhere, and someone were to come up to you, and it would be good that at that time they know exactly what to do. Hopefully, they support your bracelet. I think that's a very cool idea, and I hope a lot of
yeah.
other people can adapt that. And yeah, Tulsi wanted to ask something.
Yeah. Maybe like, yeah, I want to ask like, I really appreciate that like you wear those bracelet and like people conditions, right? You mentioned in your bio that you do some like you do get involved in some public health events related to diabetes. So like, what kind of events are those?
Yeah, so we hosted like a kind of like lightning event. Well, we just it's kind of like a festival kind of thing, like during the World Diabetes Day this year. So it just like happened not this year, last year. And then so it's like a public event, like everyone can join, and it basically is like an event to like raise awareness for diabetes, like not just type 1, I think like type 1 and type 2 diabetes. And then so we had like some speakers that talk about like how people should support like patients like us, and then like how like kind of like educate them of the condition. And also we had like just fun events like walking together, kind of like an exercise, like to be more healthy. And then we like light like a kind of like a huge light together, kind of as an ending. So like that's one of the events that we did last year. And I think like every year we try to do something similar. Like it might be like different at like a different time every year, but then we try to like have some kind of public event so that people could be more aware of like these kind of things, and also for like like people, diabetes patients from like different like regions to like come together and like meet each other so that we could like connect and like know each other afterwards. Yeah, so that's like one of the events that we did last year.
Oh, that's great. So these events, I mean, this event that
That's
you did
quite
was.
interesting.
Oh, okay. All right. So this event that you did
Oh,
was
yeah.
something was held in Taiwan. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you have any plans to like for other events, or do you plan to have something that can increase your outreach to people outside of Taiwan, maybe in the US?
Um, I haven't planned anything that's like in the US, because so I didn't host this myself, obviously. Like I like just helped with like the organization. It's
Right.
called like CTDA, but it's like a diabetes organization like in Taipei. And then so we do it with that organization and like another one. So like we like a lot of people like help this thing together. Um I haven't like I don't really have connections with like organizations like in the US, which is why I haven't like done anything. But I think like it is definitely something that can be done. And I also don't really know if we have something in the US that's similar. I know we have a lot of like kind of like individual like events that we do, like meetups and stuff. So like in New York we had like meetup groups of like all type 1 diabetes, and then like we like go hang out sometimes, and like we're all people like that don't know each other from before, but it's just like a thing that's called like through like meetup.com or meetup something, I forgot, but
Right.
it's like an app, and then you can like know other people. You can form a group based on whatever topic you like, and like there are like type 1 diabetes like groups in there, and you could join to like meet other ones that have similar condition. So I think like those, even like those kind of like smaller scale events, like I think is very supportive for a lot of us. Like we share like what kind of technologies we use, like how we manage it. Like people use pumps, like people who like use different like inhaling insulin. Like they're all like different things that you might not have heard of, but like some people might be using it, and you could like always learn from them.
Right. Right, right. It's very that's
That's
quite
really
interesting
great.
though. I've never heard of this social event where you
Meet
bring
me,
together.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think but I think it's quite cool though, because you get to learn from each other about what are the type of like as you mentioned, the therapies that you can use to manage your diabetes, and also other activities that you can do to help have a better lifestyle, and also that.
Mm.
So like I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you, what what kind of message do you want to give out to people through this platform that we have provided here, to those who have yet to discover that they're about to be diagnosed, or who have just been diagnosed and are like lost in the world about what they want to do? Like, do you have anything you want to say to them? You know.
Um, I think I think it's difficult. I think it's not nothing anyone wants, but if you if you have it, I think you just I think you just have to deal with it. Obviously, I think you can still live your life as normal. I don't think there's anything that's going to change, like, or well, some things are going to change, but I think they like the important things in your life are not going to be affected. Like I don't think, some people might think like, oh, maybe I can't get married, maybe I can't have kids. Like I don't think that's the case. Like I think you can still do whatever you want to do, even as like a diabetes patient. And I think what this condition really requires is a lot of attention to details, and like
Mm.
watching out for yourself more carefully
Yeah.
in daily life. Like you have to watch what you eat, like you have to watch like where you are, like you have to watch like who's around you. And I think this is something that is required for like a good management, and you kind of just have to live with this inconvenience. I think it's an inconvenience, and it's just, but I think like over time you get used to it and you find support around you that help you manage this. I think I've definitely gotten a lot of support from people around me, like either from like other diabetes patients, like from um the like YLD, like it's like the, I don't know if you know, but like it's like the young diabetes, what is it called? Young Leaders of Diabetes. It's like
Oh
a,
yeah, YLG. I have
yeah,
heard
so
about
Oh,
it.
okay, okay, okay.
yeah, so
Yeah,
that's
no,
like
that's
the like the group that I joined like after I got diabetes. And then like I think people in there, like there are people in there like are all around the world like having the same condition, and like they
Mhm.
have to manage it in many different culture, right? I think in different countries and different cultures, like people have different ways of managing it. And I think knowing about all those and like learning about them like is supportive for me at least. And I think like you also get to know, you have more time with your doctors too, like you can know, like you can kind of figure like which kind of doctors is more helpful for you, which kind of nurse is more helpful for you. Like I've definitely had like very helpful doctors or very not helpful doctors. So yeah, so I think you like you will find a way to manage it. I think one way or the other, like you're going to find your own way to manage it. And I don't think you should be overly worried or too sad of like what's happening. You can still eat whatever you want, just maybe not all the time. But most of the things
yeah.
you can still eat.
Yeah.
And I think you can still live like a very free life however you want, um, even with the condition. So yeah, I guess like my advice would be like live your life as before, but just with a little bit more caution.
I think that's actually very
Yeah.
inspiring, very
Knowing
encouraging actually.
yourself.
Knowing yourself, yes, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, I,
Yeah.
I think
And
the
like
bottom,
finding people who would support
yeah,
you as well. And
definitely, definitely. I think the bottom line from our conversation today, I think it's regardless of whether you are having diabetes or the person who is taking care of the people who are having diabetes, is that it's just to keep yourself informed, keep yourself updated,
Mm.
educated, and like you said, pay attention to the fine details. Otherwise, I think based on what you have said about your experiences, anyone can, live a happy, healthy life.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah. So
yeah,
on that
I
note,
think that would be like much helpful
yeah,
for all the people with
definitely.
diabetes. Yeah.
I think the last part where you mentioned about you, you wanted, I mean, where you mentioned about how it's, yes, it can be an inconvenience, but it's definitely something that can be managed by people. It's nice that we didn't, try to sugarcoat it. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So on that note, I actually wanted to ask you one last question. This is
Mm.
nothing related to your experiences, but it's more on us. So for this particular episode, we wanted to have like a hashtag, and we thought of the hashtag "Don't sugarcoat it," and I think it suits the conversation, especially the last part. So what do you think? What do you think about that hashtag?
Um, I think it's
Yeah.
pretty good. It's interesting. It's like
As a
pun-ish,
pun,
like
exactly, as a
sugar
pun.
coated. Yeah, I think it's pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, okay. And then,
Okay.
well, when once we released it, just make sure you look out for it and definitely share this with that
Yeah.
hashtag. Don't
Please
sugarcoat it.
like, share, and subscribe to IPSF April.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Elaine. And I really hope that this conversation and this podcast video that we are producing is able to, educate whoever's watching it. It definitely gave me a lot of insight about what a person
Yeah.
with type 1 diabetes is currently living with and what they have to do to manage it. It's really
Mm.
informational. So thank you so much for sharing with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Thank you so
sure.
much for joining. So I really hope this episode really did provide an insight to the life of yours, right? So I think like it not only would help the pharmacy students but also like every individual who is suffering with the condition.
Mm.
And like as you said, like it's not abnormality or not a disease, like it's not really a disease. We can really live like happily, and then uh like as we used to live
Mm-hmm.
before the condition. So like I really think it provided an inspiring story, and like it would be an inspiring episode for everyone watching this. So Kishan, do you have anything you want to say as a concluding remark, or Ilian?
I think that's it. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much for joining us, Elaine, today. And I really hope that whoever's watching this, I hope this changed some part of your life,
Yeah.
somewhere or other. So
Yeah,
keep
maybe
yourself,
like people, yeah, even people
yeah,
like you should notice the bracelet as well,
yeah,
because
yeah,
it
Yeah.
yeah.
would
Keep
really
keep
be
yourself
helpful.
exactly. Keep yourself updated and
Yeah.
always be observant of the people around you. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all. I think that's the most one of the most important takeaways from this. So yeah, I guess we're
Yeah.
done. That's all.
Okay.
Yep.
All
Thank
right.
you.